No one can tell you how it will work for you. It's the thing that your destiny is to discover that. And you have to make the decisions to begin with, because you can't do this without commitment. You have to commit to it first. I'm going to act as if I should pursue the deepest meaning possible in my life. And there's reasons to do none of those. So it's really a decision. But you can't find out what the consequence of the decision is unless you make the decision. It's weight, it's responsibility, but there's glory in it. There's real glory in it. There's deep meaning in it. And young people are starving for that.
And I empathize with a lot of people who don't have that feeling when they're 18 or in their 20s. But I'm trying to tell people everybody has it. You're just not listening to yourself. You've lost touch with who you are, the core of your being. You're on social media too much. You're listening to what other people are telling you. You're listening to what your parents told you should be doing in life. You're listening to what your friends think is cool. You're listening to what the culture is all about. You gotta cut all that shit out. You gotta listen to yourself.
You know, when I was a kid, I was, what's the future? It's tomorrow. The future is, the weekend. On Friday night, we're gonna go to Johnny's house and we're gonna play war. That's the future. You don't realize, you can actually set yourself up. What you're doing today is connected to the future. Okay, once you make that connection, you say, maybe I'll study, maybe I'll train, maybe I'll work out harder. You can start doing those things because you can improve and you can have a better life. If you have discipline now, it'll give you freedom in the future.
But if you can find something that you can keep going, something that no matter how small to look forward to and continually have faith in and chase, well, then your life here is gonna be better now, heaven or not.
No matter what you do, you're all in. This is gonna kill you. So I think you might as well play the most magnificent game you can while you're waiting.
We question all of our beliefs, except for those that we truly believe, and those we never think to question. Mm-hmm. And so I would say that a lot of my entrepreneurial career, even just human journey, has been, what are the beliefs that I so inherently believe that I don't even see them? I don't even think about the should.
True desire in the heart, that itch that you have, whatever it is you want to do, that thing that you want to do to help others and to grow, that desire, that itch, that's God's proof to you, sent beforehand already to indicate that it's yours. And anything you want good, you can have. So claim it.
That's it. Some belief, not just belief in God, but I think it's in short supply, and I think more of us need it. And if we don't have more of it, doubt's going to win. If doubt wins, we're all going to lose. And we got stuff out there to believe in. I think people are looking for it. I know I am.
I don't want it just because I can get it. Hang on a minute. Right. What is it that I really want? What is it that I really would like?
I want to be scared of the role that I'm going to take on, because I'm not sure where it's going to go, but I'm going to trust that I'll come up on the other side.
We have to define success for ourselves, and then we have to put in the work to maintain it.
And there are a lot of men that I know who are looking for that definition, that feel like,
I've been told what it's not.
And now I don't know what it is.
Let's say someone has been kicked in the nuts a good bit by life. How do you advise them to sort of become the hero of their own story again?
Oof. Man, that's a tough one. That's a great question. You know, I sit here with a life where I have the luxury to project, to ask myself and ask others, no, make a sacrifice today. Sacrifice a plastic ring today for a gold crown tomorrow. Sacrifice something today for more freedom tomorrow. Sacrifice something today for a possible healthier future for your kids. I understand that's a luxurious position. I'm not going to apologize that I'm in it, but I understand to someone in misery, they're going, good for you, man. I'm trying to feed family tonight. I'm not thinking past that. I can't think past that. What do you ask them to do? Yeah, my indirect thing I would say and understand is, well, if you don't have the hope or believe in something, you're definitely going to remain where you are. And if you have hope and faith in something, I'm not saying it's 100% get out of jail. You're going to absolutely get out, but you got the best chance to. Yeah, the book's about belief. That's what I'm peddling here. I need more of it. I personally believe in God, but the whole thing's not for people that just believe in God. Believe in trying to pursue your better self, transcendent self. If you believe in the future, you believe in your kids, you believe in the past, something. Don't know what that is? Ask yourself what you die for. Start there. Everyone kind of believes in something. There's an argument that even nihilists do believe in nothing's even something. I've never been able to really live with, by hook or by crook, I'll get it how I can get it. I'll lie, cheat, and steal to get it. I got the prize, and I'm still okay. I got it. My own shadow chases me down in the middle of the night, and those nightmares do become my own daymares. I think I naturally come back, and look, I hustle. I'm a hustler. I'm not puritanical. I'm not trying to preach a absolute straight and narrow way to go things. I bullshitted my way into things and faked my way into making things. Pulled off stunts. Wait a minute now. So we're saying if success is the key, if success is the measurement, and you can get it by lying, cheating, and stealing, and still be rewarded the gold medal. That's what's happening. Are we ready to say that's okay? Are we ready to say that's just how it is? We have leaders in positions now that are saying, yeah, just win. Well, just win, just succeed. But yeah, I don't care how you get there. You did it. Congratulations, come to the front of the line. So what are the ethics? I don't know, what'd the winner do? Well, but wait, what about rules? Oh yeah, by the way, the rules, if you follow them, you're a sucker. I started to find myself going, oh, wait a minute. I'm not ready to wave that white flag. Are we ready to wave that white flag and go, we can see that's what it is, because there's many reasons to do so. And so I'm looking around at people and going, I'm not finding people to believe in, and I'm finding it harder to believe myself.
But although those people might get to the front of the queue and be awarded the medal that you're awarded, or the queue that you get to the front of, might not actually give you what you want. And you start by sort of reframing success, which I think is a really important thing, especially for a young generation, especially for men who are, the first to want to get to the top of the pyramid in certain pursuits in life. And okay, you can get to the top of the pile, or you can get the gold medal, but be careful what that medal represents, and a medal in what?
Right.
And
what relevant for what? We all want to be relevant. Okay, like relevant for what? We want to succeed, but when we succeed, do we act? Is it worth it if we don't profit?
Yeah, you said, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If more, we're trained to go, the quantity is the goal. That's it. Well, and if that's sacrificing quality, or value, what we actually value, what are you really winning?
Sometimes you can do everything right and still not get the result that you wanted. And that seems like a really tough pill to swallow for people. I think that's why people become uncomfortable with fully feeling their emotions.
Yeah.
So where do you go? What do you think when I gave it my all there, I bared myself, and I still got kicked in the nuts?
Yeah. Not only did I feel like I deserve it, I feel like I earned it, and I still didn't get it. Wait a minute, but you said that's the playbook, and I followed the playbook. You said these were the rules and the regulations. I followed it, and I was good at it. I still didn't get it.
Is there something that you try to remember about the upside of a crisis during a crisis, or do we just need to ride that out? Zooming out would be so beautiful, and in retrospect, if only you could give yourself the gift of distance, of time.
Yeah.
And yet you know something hard is going to come again, and you're going to be swept away by the wave.
I mean, for me, I think it's an obvious dance of the both, because you can't jump to the objective right away and go, Inshallah, oh, fate'll have it, this too shall pass, I'm fine. No, because then you don't deal with the crisis. I do have a pretty quick threshold for being able to laugh, like honestly start giggling when I'm in the shit, because I've found that I'm able to handle the shit better if I just the quicker I start going, are you kidding me? I'll get objective and remind myself things like, You gonna die, McConaughey? Which gives me that, so what? This is not as big of a deal as I thought.
You said that a harmless man is not a good man. A good man is a very dangerous man who has that under voluntary control. How should people become more dangerous?
Becoming more articulate is definitely, that's the primary array of weapons. If you can think and speak and write, you are absolutely deadly. Nothing can get in your way. So that's why you learn to write. It's power. And I mean power of the best sort. It's authority and influence and respectability and competence. And so you come to university to craft your highest skill. And your highest skill is to be found in articulated speech. And if you're a master at formulating your arguments, you win everything. You need to learn to think. Because thinking makes you act effectively in the world. Thinking makes you win the battles you undertake. And those could be battles for good things. And if you can formulate your arguments coherently and make a presentation, if you can speak to people, if you can lay out a proposal, God, people give you money, they give you opportunities, you have influence. Teach people to be articulate, because that's the most dangerous thing you can possibly be. So, and that's motivating if people know that. It's like, well, why are you learning to write? Because here's your sword, here's your M16, right? Here's your bulletproof vest. Like, you learn how to use them. It's very helpful for people to hear that they should make themselves competent and dangerous and take their proper place in the world.
Competent and dangerous? Why dangerous?
Because it's the alternative to being weak. Because it makes you formidable. Even if the world was conspiring against me and my failure was 95% the fault of external occurrences and other people, what did I do that wasn't as good as it could have been, and where did I fail to look so that the probability of my failure was higher? Now, to ask that question, you have to want the answer. That's what it means to knock or to ask or to seek. This is no joke. It's like you have to want to know. And it's a very painful thing to do, because especially if you had given it your all to the degree you were able, and you have reason to be bitter, you're going to be searching for the errors that you still made. And discovering your own errors is always extremely painful, right? Especially if they're errors that you're in love with. And so you have to be willing to strip yourself down. That's what humility means fundamentally. But the advantage is, this is why it's so useful to listen to people. You might find out where you're stupid, and then you could stop being stupid. And so one of the reasons you confess your sins, let's say, is because you want to discover where you're insufficient. Now, it's painful. It's painful to encounter an impediment in the form of someone else's opinion that might show you where you're blind and ignorant, or willfully blind even. But the advantage to that is you can rectify the error, and then as you move forward, you're stronger. One of the things I taught my kids, and I hope at least somewhat successfully, was that you should always ask a stupid question. And that doesn't mean the sort of question that someone who wasn't paying attention would ask. If you're listening to someone and you don't understand what they're saying, and you reveal that, you're revealing your ignorance, and maybe you're in a room full of people and you think you're the only person stupid enough to not get it, which is very rarely the case, by the way. The thing is, though, if you reveal that ignorance to yourself and to the other person, they can rectify it. And if you do that 1,000 times, you're not ignorant anymore. If you ask 1,000 dumb questions and you listen to the answer, then you know 1,000 things, some of them deep, that you didn't know before. So that's the advantage to searching your soul, let's say, for unrequited sins and attempting to atone. That's not a delusion, right? It's an attempt to set yourself right. And so you write an autobiography because you need to know where you are and who you are right now. Because how the hell are you going to plot a pathway to the future unless you know where you are? And then you need to write about the future, because you aren't going to hit something unless you aim at it. That's for sure. And lots of times people won't aim at what they want because they're afraid. The reason they're afraid is because if you specify what you want, you've specified your conditions of failure. You know when you fail. And it's better just to keep it foggy. It's like, well, I don't know if I'm succeeding or failing, but I can't really tell. Well, great, except you can't hit anything you don't aim at. And so the future authoring program is like it's an attempt to have you articulate your character. And so is the past authoring program. Who are you? Important events that have shaped who you are. And you may find that some of that writing makes you emotional. And I would say, if you have a memory that's more than 18 months old, roughly speaking, and when you bring it to mind, it has an emotional impact, especially a negative emotional impact. It's like part of your soul is stuck back there. And I know that's a metaphorical way of thinking about it, but what I mean is that the reason that you still experience the emotion is because you have not solved the problem that situation faced you with. It might be a real problem, like maybe you got tangled up with someone who was really bad, and that's rough, man, because you've got to come up with a theory of malevolence to deal with something like that, and that's no joke. But if it still produces emotion, it means you haven't solved the problem, and your brain is still tagging it as threat. It's a part of your territory that you did not master. Threat, 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 threat. And until you take it apart, and articulation really helps that, writing really helps that, then you're not going to free yourself from its grip. Put yourself together. And then maybe if you put yourself together, you know how to do that. You know what's wrong with you, if you'll admit it. You know there's a few things you could polish up a little bit, that you might even be able to manage in your insufficient present condition. And so you might shine yourself up a little bit, and then your eyes will be a little more open, and then you can shine yourself up a little bit more, and then maybe you could bring your family together instead of having them be the hateful, spiteful, neurotic, infighting batch that you're doomed to spend Christmas with. So then you fix yourself up a little bit, kind of humbly, because, God, you're a fixer-upper if there ever was one. And then you got to figure out, well, can you figure out how to make peace with your idiot brother? And probably not, because he's just as dumb as you, so how the hell are you going to manage that? And so then maybe you get somewhere that way, and your family's sort of functioning, and you find out, well, that kind of relieved a little bit of suffering, although it reduced the opportunities for spiteful revenge, and that's kind of a pain in the neck. And so then you get your family together a little bit, and you're a little clued in then, at least a bit, because you've done something difficult that's actually difficult. You're a little wiser, and so then maybe you could put a tentative finger out beyond the family and try to change some little thing without wrecking it. It's like, our society is complex, and we teach our students that they could just fix it. It's like, go fix a military helicopter and see how far you get with that. It's like, what are you going to do? You're like a chimp with a wrench. Whack! Oh, look, it's better. It's like, no, it's not better. Things are complicated, and to fix things is really hard. And you have to be like a golden tool to fix things, and you're not. How do you overcome the suffering of life? Is be a better person. That's how you do it. Well, that's hard. It takes responsibility. And I think, if you said to someone, you want to have a meaningful life? Everything you do matters. That's the definition of a meaningful life. But everything you do matters. So you're going to have to carry that with you. Or do you want to just forget about the whole meaning thing, and then you don't have any responsibility, because who the hell cares? And you can wander through life doing whatever you want, gratifying impulsive desires for how useful that's going to be. And you're stuck in meaninglessness, but you don't have any responsibility. Which one do you want? Well, ask yourself, which one are you pursuing?
It's an interesting paradox that the energy it requires to start doing something is way more than the energy required to continue doing the thing.
It won't get harder. This is the hardest part. And so if you can just make it through this, everything else is downhill. It's not that the things that the dragons you're going to slay aren't going to get bigger. They are. But you become so much more equipped to slay them back. And you have so many more allies. You have people in the stands cheering for you. You have the audience. You have all of these other things that are behind you. But at the beginning, it's just you with a stick against a bear. And arguably, that fight is a harder fight to win than beating a dragon when you have a nuclear bomb and 6 nations behind you. And so it's not even like the size of the hardship, it's just also the resources and how few of them you have, and how so much of the beginning is literally burning the one thing you have, which is time. because you have no leverage. You don't have the money to pay other people to help you. You don't have the resources to go. No one can learn it for you. It's like there's a lot of the things that we care about a lot. Like no one can work out for you. It doesn't matter how much money you have. No one can learn skills for you. And so in the early days, like it feels so painful because you're like, you look around to see who can help you, and then you're like, it's me again. Those early days, that little trench winning in the weeds, oftentimes gives you these huge advantages later on because you have more context than anyone else. And so rather than lament them and hate the fact that you're going through it, remembering that these will be arrows that you put in the quiver that you're going to be using to slay the future bigger dragons. And so expecting it to be easy is what makes it much harder than it ever is.
Every single difficult thing that you do is kind of like a massive wall that you need to get over. And you go, wow, I'm so glad that I've got over that wall. And, you know, think about how many other people are going to fall at that wall there.
Trying to assume that I need perfect conditions in order to start. Because, I mean, starting is the perfect condition. Like whatever condition that you're in, that you start, was the perfect condition. What's wild about the fear that people have when they're starting out is that they say things like, I have nothing going for me. I have no advantages. I have nothing to my name. I have no money. I have no network. I have no resources. But it also means that you have nothing to lose, which makes you incredibly dangerous. And I think people wildly underestimate how many shots on goal you can take when you have nothing to lose. Whereas when someone has something to lose, they have to be more and more selective about the shots they take. And so you have the perfect conditions for taking risk because the worst case scenario is baseline, is where you're currently at.
Correct. Yeah.
And so that
your
means,
downside is this.
which means that it's like going to the casino and playing craps, but they say that you can just keep playing until you win. But people are afraid to roll. But I love this question, which is, what would you do if you weren't afraid? And I love thinking about that when I'm thinking about big life decisions. Like, what would I do if I weren't afraid? And what would I do if I knew I couldn't fail? And fear is a mile wide and an inch deep. And so it looks like this ocean that you're going to step into and drown. But as soon as you step into it, you realize it was not that deep at all, and you can keep walking through it. And I just love that visual because a lot of times when it's like we have this anxiety around this big decision we have to make, if you actually take the step and realize that it's not death, you're not going to drown immediately. There's plenty of other steps you can take from there, even if you get a little wet.
One of the other common areas I think that people are struggling with, you speak to a lot of young men, train a lot of young men. What's your advice to young men that are struggling with direction in life?
Like, there are a bunch of young men out there and they are getting after it. Whether they're linemen, whether they're on oil rigs, whether they're software developers, like there's all kinds of people that are out there crushing. And so when I hear about people that, what'd you say, are lost or?
Directionless.
Directionless? Yeah, what do you want to do with your life? I guess that's my question. What do you want to do with your life? Because you got one life. It's going by quickly, and this is something that years ago I spent a good chunk of my 30s training MMA fighters. And we had a jiu-jitsu gym, we had an MMA gym, and so in the beginning, when a potential fighter would come in and they'd be 22 years old, and I'd say, "Hey, how old are you?" And they'd say, "I'm 22," and they'd say, "I want to fight. There's a fight card coming up. I want to be on it." And I was like, I'd tell them, "Listen, you got plenty of time. Like, get better, train, up your skills." And I said that for probably 3 or 4 years. And then after 3 or 4 years, when guys would come in, I would start telling them the opposite, which is, you need to get on it. You need to be in here every day. You're almost out of time. You're 22, you're late. Because I realized I saw a lot of people that didn't have any sense of urgency in their life. And when you don't have a sense of urgency, things aren't going to happen. You need to make things happen, as we already discussed. They're not just going to happen for you. You're not going to become a good fighter unless you make it happen. And you're not going to do anything in life unless you make it happen. So if you feel like right now you're looking around and you're lost or directionless, I would take about 15 minutes and figure out what the hell you want to do with your life, and I would start getting after it. So that's my advice. Take 15 minutes, figure out something that you're into, and go crush that thing and make it happen.
For better or worse, life is really short. And it's this ridiculous irony that you only see in retrospect how short it is. Right? It doesn't feel short at the time, but I bet when you get to your 80s and you look back, you think, holy fuck, that went by in no time at all.
Yeah, I had that conversation with my mom a couple of years ago, and she said, I was like, oh, hey, how's it going, talking on the phone, and she said, oh, it's been a pretty rough couple months because this person died, this person died, this person died. And she's almost 80 or something like that. And so I said to her, Mom, all those people that you're talking about that are 80, 85, 87 years old, like they've had a full run at it. I'm like, I've buried my friends that are 27 years old, 30 years old, 31 years old. Like that's horrible. And so people that got this full run, man, be thankful that they got that full run.
It is, I understand why some people have degrees of regret around that, because they think, like, I don't know where that time went. I wish I'd known this thing sooner. But again, if action's the antidote to anxiety, the only way that you can work out what it is that you need to do is by hurrying up and doing it. And again, if the fear of failure, the fear of the unknown is worse than the actual thing, it all ties together. I think everything that we've spoken about.
Like, yeah, you're gonna blow some stuff. You're gonna make some bad decisions. You're gonna screw some things up. Yeah, that's kind of cool. Like those make for good stories, man. Mm-hmm. Go get them. Go make them happen. Mm-hmm. And right now, if you're a dude and you're 22 years old and you feel like you're directionless, get your shit together, man, and go start making things happen.
You spent a good bit of your career in situations that would cause most people to feel a ton of fear. I think that fear is related to this confidence, conviction in my decisions. What have you learned about how to deal with and overcome fear?
Go. When all that fear that's in your head, all the what ifs and the scenarios that you create inside your own mind that are way worse than anything that is actually going to happen, they all disappear when you go. That is the moment that can last 1,000,000 years, is waiting to go. And I found I'm pretty good at it now, where, I'm like, oh yeah, I know what that is, and I'm going, and then that's it. And once you go, driving, even, speaking of in being in combat, if we were driving to a target and so you're going to go hit a target somewhere, and driving to the target, the closer you get, you're thinking about all the things that go wrong, all the bad things that are going to happen, all this stuff. When one of my guys gets wounded, what if they have IEDs in the yard? Like, there's a bunch of things going through your mind. Once you stop, get out of the vehicle, all those things go away. Yep. And you're doing the thing, and you're not worried about it anymore. And so let's just go. That's the answer.
So action is an antidote to anxiety, then.
Man, action's an antidote to all kinds of problems. Yeah. Even going back to the obstacle course, which I think the tallest obstacle on the obstacle course might be the cargo net. I don't know how tall it is, but it's tall enough that you are not going to be in good shape if you fall. And you have to climb up the cargo net, and then you have to go over the top of it and then climb back down the other side. If you're freaked out or you're scared, you're going to get stuck there. And there's guys that do get stuck. They don't climb over the top of it. Not a lot, but there's occasionally guys that it's not happening. Mm. So the longer that you sit, you hang on and look and stare and contemplate the chances of you falling off, it doesn't get any better. So eventually you just throw your leg over and get over that damn thing. So I think I probably just experienced it enough and was cognizant enough to recognize that at some point, oh yeah, this feeling of caution and fear and all that stuff in the back of my head, yeah, I just need to get rid of all that and just go.
It seems to go away when I move toward it.
Yeah, it does go away.
I imagine it's all well and good saying good decisions beget good decisions. You've got this infinite domino tumble that helps you to keep the momentum up. And yes, it is your responsibility to deal with the repercussions of the decisions that you've made, including the string of bad ones for the last quite a long time, if that's the situation that you're in. But it's not particularly reassuring or comforting, I don't think, to somebody who's in the... So what would you say to someone who's going through a bad month or a string of bad months and doesn't see any light at the end of the tunnel?
What are your options? Like, okay, you're upside down financially, relationship went south, you got whatever those things are, your credit card debt is up, you got fired from your job. Okay, you're in a terrible situation. What are your options? What you have to do is, well, you kind of have to prioritize and execute, right? Like, okay, I got all these bad things going on in my life. What is my biggest problem right now? And you got to say, okay, I got to start with solving that problem. And you got to start to take action. You got to take action and move forward. And if you don't, the downward spiral doesn't end. And if you allow it to continue to go down, that's where it's going to end up. And so you just have to, what are my options? Abandon the whole thing? Like, no, that's not the option. That is not the option.
How do you deal with the tension of feeling that other thing pull away from you, right? You know that you need to focus, and you know that by focusing on one thing, another thing is going to start to drop away. But the classic overachiever mindset is, well, everything needs to be growing at all times. So there's an emotional pain at watching something stagnate or watching something fall behind. How do you try and navigate that?
You just have to figure out what the priority is. And at certain times, certain things might be a higher priority right now than it is at some other point, and something else picks up, and sometimes the family needs to be the priority, sometimes the business, sometimes the other business, sometimes the health. Like, you're just going to have to weigh those things out and recognize that you can't do them all simultaneously at the same time all the time. It's not going to work. So you got to figure out where you're going to make some compromises, where you're going to make some trade-offs.
What do most people misunderstand about discipline equals freedom?
If you give up a little bit today, like, you can't get it back. Like, if you skip a workout today, there's no possible way to get that back. When you let something go, it's gone. Rome wasn't built in a day, but Rome didn't fall apart on a day either. It didn't fall apart because of one thing. It falls apart just a little bit at a time.
Yeah, nobody gets fit overnight, and nobody gets fat overnight either.
Exactly. You can't submit. You can't submit. You have to get in there and keep it going. And I know the results of not doing the thing are not good. Yeah, I mean, I enjoy doing these things. I enjoy working out. Do I enjoy working out every single day? No. And that's when it's like, oh yeah, but I know the results of the long run. I don't know. I think it was pretty simple to understand.
I agree, but it's with simplicity comes an awful lot of opportunity for people to.
Yeah, I guess there's always people that, as they're trying to fish for a contrarian thing to say, which I think you kind of have to fish for it. I think you have to work for it to get with that statement.
I kind of get the sense as well with that story about not wanting to go to the gym. I do think that that's the difference between discipline and motivation. Motivation. I didn't want to do the thing. Discipline. I did the thing in spite of not wanting to do the thing.
Look, I've said many times, you can't count on motivation. Like, it's not going to be there for you.
Yeah.
Or it may, but it may not be. And
it's lovely when it comes along.
If you wait for it to be there, you might be waiting more than you should.
When we deployed to Iraq in 2006, we'd been fighting since 2003, and we'd had very few casualties in the SEAL teams. The amount of guys that had experienced their teammates killed in action was minuscule. And so there was no preparation other than what I had taken away from reading about combat for my whole life. What I did was what I knew how to do, which was work. And that's literally what I told my guys was we've crossed a line, and there's no possible way to replace or describe or overcome the amount of just heart-wrenching sadness that you feel when you lose a teammate. I didn't know what to do, and I didn't know what to say.
First time,
second time, third time.
Irrelevant, what time?
What I did was, and I told my guys, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to tell you. The only thing that I know to do is to go back to work. And I do know this, if Mark was here, he would want us to go back to work. And so we're gonna lock and load our weapons, and we're gonna go do what we do. In World War II, in World War I, there would be days where thousands upon thousands were killed. And so that offered me a small bit of perspective to think to myself that human beings, we can feel like we're special, and we can feel like no one's ever been through what I've been through, and the world is hard for me and easier for everyone else. Well, the reality is that's not true, and we're not special. And the things that people go through, other people have gone through, most likely much, much worse and much more significant. So that, to me, was it gave me at least some level of perspective to realize that other warriors had gone through this before. This was my turn, and this is how I'm gonna try and handle it. I've got that going on, and I need to control it. So when people start getting emotional, when guys get killed, how do I get control over that? Yeah, I absolutely have to control my own emotions, because it's your guys. And believe me, when you lose one of your guys, you want to kill everyone. And you know you can't, and you know you shouldn't. So you have to detach from your emotions, you have to get control of them, and you have to make sure that you lead your men in the right direction so they don't do something that is not the right thing to do. One of my answers for people, when they say, hey, how can I get better at detaching and controlling my emotions? I tell them to start training jiu-jitsu, because you're gonna get tapped out in jiu-jitsu. Your ego is gonna get smacked around so hard, you're gonna lose your mind. And the madder you get, the more aggressive you are, the more you're gonna get beat down, and the worse it's gonna be. So you have to learn to control your emotions, no doubt about it. And then what you have to do is you have to start practicing it all the time. You have to start paying attention to the red flags that go up when I start raising my voice at you. I go, oh, that's your emotion, get mad. And for me, like the minute I feel some sort of anger, some sort of jealousy, some sort of frustration, most of the time I go, oh, you're getting mad, that's your ego. You're getting emotional about this. Take a step back and listen to what the other person's saying. Take a step back and try and see it from their perspective. Take a step back and try and understand what they're trying to say. Because sometimes, if you're not a very articulate person, you're just making me mad. It's only because I don't understand what you're trying to say. Take a step back. Let's talk through it. So pay attention to, I always talk about when you're sending an email to someone and you're typing like this, don't send that email. That's not a good email to send. That's an emotional email. Wait, write it out, fine, and then save it and read it later, and you'll realize, oh yeah, I was really mad about something, or I was really frustrated. So how do you do it? You practice it. You pay attention to your emotions and you get control over them.
Can you teach that? Let's go. We're gonna jump back in the water, let's go.
I think that's one of the few things that you learn in basic SEAL training is to shrug your shoulders and go forward. What you learn to do is, okay, I'm gonna go forward. I can't get out of this. I'm gonna go forward. I'm not gonna quit, so I'm gonna go forward. Bring it on. So if you lack the discipline to exercise and eat healthy, you will end up being a slave to disease. If you lack the discipline to work hard, save your money, you will end up a slave to finances. If you lack the discipline to manage your time correctly, you will end up with no free time. If you have self-discipline, if you have the discipline to save your money and work hard and invest your money properly, if you have the discipline to manage your time correctly and not waste a bunch of time, if you have the discipline to exercise and eat healthy, you will end up with freedom.
You've got to be aggressive to make things happen. I mean, if you're not aggressive with things, they don't happen, they don't move. So you're always learning and growing, and I was always learning until the day I retired.
And people can actually confront the fact that this is all because of me, and it hurts, but is also unbelievably empowering, because if these problems are because of me, then I'm capable of fixing these problems. So even though extreme ownership hurts and is painful, it's also liberating, because now you have control over your fate and over your destiny, and that is a glorious thing. I'm not saying take your emotions out of the calculus, but they have to be one component of your calculus, not the whole equation. The equation has to include emotions, yes. Logic, yes. Future, yes. Goals, yes. Family, yes. Work, yes. Finances, yes. All those things have to be in the calculus. Emotions has to be a part of that calculus. You can't pull them out of there or they'll bite you. But you can't make them the overwhelming denominator of everything that you do, or it's going to be problematic. Extreme ownership is, this went wrong, this failed, didn't accomplish this, and it's not the fault of my boss, it's not the fault of my girlfriend, it's not the fault of my parents, it's not the fault of the weather, it's my fault. And I'm going to take ownership of it, and I'm going to fix it. That's what extreme ownership is. And this is a very difficult thing to do because it hurts. Because when you look around at your life and you look around at your job and your financial situation and your relationship and your physical health, and when you look at all those things and all the problems that you may have with those things, and you say the reason I have all of those problems is because of me, that can hurt. That can sting. And a lot of times our ego rejects that and makes excuses and lies. And then we don't have to change anything. And then nothing changes. So again, I would love to be able to, give you this profound anchor that people need to have. But it's like, oh, do you want to do this or not? Which is what I think a lot of it boils down to. Do you actually want to do this or not? Do you actually want to do this or not? Because if you actually want to do it, what's going to stop you? Nothing. And if you don't really want to do it, what's going to stop you? Just about anything that comes up. Just about any obstacle that gets in your way becomes an excuse. It becomes a reason. It becomes a rationale for not proceeding down that path.
So there's a lot of people say, like, do the work. And in Gym Launch, and it's continued into our stuff today, but do the boring work is what we call it. And boring is what makes you rich. The boring activities, it's the double checking the emails. It's writing the follow-up sequence that you really don't feel like writing. And honestly, just getting it done will make you significantly more money than not getting it done. And so it's Michael Phelps talks about this too with swimming, like just laps after, like he doesn't even have the variety of like different moves or different, like it's just laps, just sheer volume of work. And I call it the Rocky cutscene, and almost every successful person that I have ever encountered has gone through not a month or a year, but many years of doing work without reward, where they have to do things that other people find boring, and they have to sacrifice things that everyone finds interesting, that most people want to do during that entire season of their life. And they basically sacrifice a season of other things that they would prefer to do stuff that they would not prefer to do because of the one thing they want most. And that's the Rocky cutscene. And instead of lasting 5 minutes, it just usually lasts 5 or 10 years.
Even now, it's it's still something that I struggle with, realizing that now isn't forever. The thing that you're doing right now doesn't need to be forever. It's not forever.
Yeah. There's this huge time delay between when we start behaving in a way that a winner behaves and when we start winning. And the problem is that the bigger the mountain you're trying to climb, the bigger the W you're trying to get, typically the more delayed it is
Longer
between
the lag.
Yeah, between when you start behaving like a winner and when you start being a winner. And most people don't get the fast enough feedback loop to know that they're on the right path when they are taking these first steps in the right direction, because they have this really big goal, but they forget that with that really big goal comes the even longer delay that it takes to get there, while still continuing to act with no feedback from society.
No positive reinforcement. No
whatsoever.
Nothing.
And I think that's like, if I actually had to put a real, like what has worked so well for me and why the input over the output focus has been so powerful, is that I can extend the time horizon basically indefinitely, because the goal is me and then the external goals occur. So I think a lot of us have the battle of the other self, that we're the lesser version of ourself that we're trying to kill every single day. And so a lot of times we have this desire to point the blame finger externally, but wherever you point the finger of blame, power follows. And so whoever I blame for the life I have is the person who I give all the power over my existence, over my circumstances. And so it hurts, but if you turn the finger inwards and you start saying, I don't like my life. The person that I need to punish or get back at is the real person who got me here, which is me. And so you may be right that other people did certain things or you got dealt a bad hand. It also doesn't matter, because the only thing that you can control is obviously the actions that you take. And the only person who's in control of that is you. The revenge porn is thinking about what the version of you who got you here did, and then acting in the exact opposite of that as many times as you possibly can. And the pain that you feel by rejecting the thing that you used to do that got you into this bad circumstance, that's the real revenge.
We don't rise to the standards we have when others are watching. We fall to the standards we have when no one is watching. The only work that really matters is the work that no one sees. It shows you who you really are rather than who you say you are.
There's this line that I heard David Goggins say on Rogan, and I can't remember who he was saying it to or what he said in response to, but he just said, "I'm David Goggins, bitch." And I remember him saying it, and I thought to myself, like, you want to be able to say that in the mirror to yourself and not laugh at yourself. And the only way that I can do that is know that when no one's watching, I work harder than when they're watching. And thinking about it like that has given me this persistent and ever-present scorecard or third party that's like, no one's watching, which means now you have to work, because otherwise you're full of shit. And so it's this continuous reinforcing cycle of the me and other me holding the whip behind me to see how much I can take. But with each lash of the whip that I take, learning that I can take it and continue to trudge on. And so as long as you keep going, you bear witness to yourself of what you are capable of. And I find that incredibly satisfying in the trenches of misery when you have to go through it.
It means you're like, not full of shit.
I'm still here.
It means that you're not full of...
So I think what we're teasing at is authenticity. And so a lot of people feel like imposters because what they think, what they say, and what they do are completely different. But from an operational perspective, because that's how I like to define a lot of words, which is, what do I have to do to be that, right? What do I have to do to be authentic? And you can describe someone as authentic by saying, how would you behave if there was no possibility of punishment? And so if you could not be punished at all, that behavior is who you are authentically. And so, in my opinion, our degrees of freedom are predicated on how much, to what extent we act as though we could not be punished. And so if what we want to do and what we do have no possibility of punishment, that is what we are when we are our true selves. Most of the pain that people experience is purely in their own minds. And so to your point, I think there's an interesting one between burnout versus hard. And so for me, burnout is when I would define it as my output per unit of time decreases. So I can see that that's measurable, right? Now, I can say number of pages that I edit or the quality of the content that I create, my output per time, the team knows when I'm 6 hours, 7 hours into recording something, they're I literally start slumping. You're physically, I just start slumping and my cadence isn't as, I'm just not as sharp, right? There's that versus emotional burnout, which I think people mislabel as burnout when really it's just they don't know how to reframe reality. And so what it really is they got a comment on a post that bugged them. And again, it's pulling it from the shadows. It's no, this stuff doesn't work. It's hold on. What's the one voice that actually is coming through? What is the real thing? Well, there was this comment. Okay, great. It's embarrassing to even have to say that. But when you say it, then you admit it, and all of a sudden you put it in the light, and the shame kind of starts to evaporate. Because then you can name it and be is this comment bigger than my future? Is this comment bigger than me? And one of the things that that has helped me was saying what's true about this? And the next one is what if we confront it and say what if they're right? Now what? Because I think a lot of effort gets put into trying to deny reality, right? There's this clip that I shared from Tom Bilyeu, and he was talking about how he gets made fun of for his ears being big, right? And I think it's a really good clip because his point that he was making, he's is that it's true. I do have big ears. And so that's, if they're you have no right to be making content. Are they right? Okay. And I'm still going to do it anyways. Because the thing is I can still do the things that create success and not deserve it and still get it. And that actually felt very powerful for me because it was I don't have to deserve the success. I can still just do the stuff that gets it. It's you don't have to deserve the girl, but you can still do the things that get her. And do you deserve her when you have her? I don't know. Who knows? I hate the word deserve to begin with, right?
Yes.
But that has been super powerful for me, which is what if they're right? And? Because a lot of people are they spend so much effort trying to fight the fact that the comments might be right. This might have been a fucking terrible thumbnail.
Yep.
You know what? This might have been a boring video. This post might have been regurgitated content. This post might have been inspired too closely by someone else's post, right? What if they're right? And does it make me a piece of shit? What if it does? And?
Being an asshole is a weak person's idea of strength. Complaining is their connection. Never let yourself be held back by other people's fears. People criticize what they were afraid to do themselves because bold action reminds them of their own inaction. If you're afraid to be criticized, why do you care about the opinions of those who are too timid to do it themselves? If you are the criticizer, does tearing down someone who has the courage you lack make you better?
People criticize because it helps them justify the risks they chose not to take, in the hopes that it'll dissuade you from doing it so that you can be in the exact same position as them, which then justifies that they made the right call. And so when I think about how hard I want to work, the interesting thing about that is that the only person who can judge you on your success is you, because you're the only one who knows how much left in the tank you really had. And the better you get, and you can resonate with this, you start winning exteriorly. And that's when people are it felt so empty. It's because they didn't actually work as hard as they could have. They just worked hard enough to beat everyone else. But that discrepancy between how hard you could have worked to work your hardest versus what was required in order to win, to me, that's the opportunity that shifting towards the work being the goal unlocks for you. And I work harder now than I did when I was poor. And I think it's because I've learned to enjoy it.
The result, which we know there isn't really one, and we cannot imitate someone else's exact result. We're going to have our own way to get there. The approach is all. I think that's the best our life can get is one constant approach, and with many different approaches, but knowing there is no result.
You know the story of Sisyphus? Man gets cursed. I think he was a demigod, gets cursed to roll a boulder up a hill. It's a heavy, heavy boulder. He rolls it uphill, and just as he gets to the very top, he stumbles and it falls down and crushes him.
Okay.
And he needs to walk back to the bottom, turn around, pick it back up. And Albert Camus' famous line is, "We must imagine Sisyphus happy." That this pointless pursuit, that he finds joy in the process of doing it.
So I grew up only knowing sort of the courage of the persistence. Be resilient, endure, get up, dust yourself off, go. The problem with that, the Achilles heel with that is if you get up and you have the courage to keep on going every time and get up and dust yourself off, you make the same mistakes each time around because you never backed up to have what I've now learned and still learning is the courage to go, no, I'm going to let some people pass me in the race right now because I'm going to look at why I keep stepping in that damn same pothole and twisting my ankle, the same spot. Why I keep failing when I try to get that next spot in this relationship or failing in this place to get this product of my craft to the next.
Would that be the relinquishing of the rom-com era in a small part for you?
A small part, yeah. Yeah, it was definitely courageous. I did honestly think I'd written myself a one-way ticket out of Hollywood. People close to me, basically almost everybody besides my wife was like, "What is your major malfunction, little brother?
You got it made.
Why are you throwing a jackknife in this stuff where you're tripping yourself running downhill, man? You did it." I had my wife and myself to remind myself of that 4 a.m. clarity that I had in tears when I was like, "No, I'm rolling the dice. I'm sticking with it." Yeah, man. I did think I wrote myself a ticket out of Hollywood. I did look at other vocations, become a teacher, a wildlife guide. I seriously looked at those things. But over time, and it was about 20 months, it was gone long enough, had found anonymity enough, was not in your living room in a theater in a rom-com, you didn't see me on a beach shirtless. Where is he? Turning down the $14.5 million offer made people go, "Oh shit, what's he up to?" You don't just step out of Hollywood and enter, unless you turn that down because you got a plan. You got somewhere you want to go. And I think that made me more attractive as a new novel idea. But that was, that risk I think it's fair to say that took a fair amount of courage from me.
We often see resistance as a form of failure and something that we should endeavor to avoid. You think about the avoidance of like people building families, or even many people consider that we're living in a bit of a comfort crisis. This is slightly a different sort of analogy, but most of the diseases that we have today, whether they're diseases of, I don't know, the mind, like, people feeling lonely and isolated, or physical diseases, 80% of Americans getting back pain, but no one in the Hadza tribe in Africa getting back pain. They're all a consequence of us continually choosing comfort, which is a short-term friend but long-term enemy. And resistance, I think, is something increasingly we can choose, opt out of.
Oh, and we've out-convenienced ourselves. What's AI gonna do to us? Talk about convenience. How much, and I want to keep hearing studies, I wonder if you have an opinion on this. How much of you coming up with an idea and then writing and rewriting it, thinking about it, no, that's not our next word. Oh, no, this is what I really mean and how to get it done. How much of that is really valuable to get it beyond just an intellectual idea, more valuable than just going, there it is. Because what comes out of AI, incredibly impressive. My hunch is that, we can use it for like signpost to help us. Oh, that's good. Thank you for helping me organize. But there's a value to us going through the sweat equity of learning something.
But through history, people like Richard Feynman, the physicist, has said the best way to learn something is to learn it and then to go through the pain of writing it, condensing it down to a simple truth like you do so often in your new book, Poems and Prayers, and then sharing it with the world and then getting the feedback. And if the world understood it like you meant it, like that poem you just shared, you understand it. That's evidence that you get it.
Right.
So I think AI is going to be great for me saying something to you, but not learning something myself. And I think if you want to defend creativity and innovation and the ability to think, you actually have a huge opportunity, which is to go left when everyone's going right.
Well, now we're going into, I got that thing in there. I said, what's better? Take eight big risks in life, sin once, miss the mark once, but get achieve seven out of 8, or take 100 risks and achieve 8 of them. My hunch is that if there's a God, he's saying, go for the 100 and get 8, rather than 8 and get 7. If you're not taking enough risks to sin or miss the mark, which is what sin means, to fail, then what are you doing? Don't come back with even money. Come back with the safe bets, which that can become a sort of recessive peace, namaste. No, it's almost a. I don't think it's what the mystics meant when they were like, be disattached. I think it meant go embrace, but for highs and lows and pains and pleasures, understand that those outward things are not the things to be attached to for your own identity. It's got to be inward first. Enjoy those, partake, but don't become attached to those for your measure.
Without complacency, trust that time is on your side.
Yep.
What do you mean there?
Yeah, man. Don't get ahead or behind it. And I can get in a rush. And I haven't found, look, and I know how to hustle, and let's go. The clock's ticking. We're all behind. All hands on deck. We got to bust ass. No time for pause. There's no sleep, no nothing. Get the caffeine out. Let's go. Sometimes we got to do that. But that is usually because an unforeseen circumstance has happened, that there's a crisis we got to deal with, or we've procrastinated and I put myself in that position where we got to cram. But it's not those two circumstances. We're going to watch ourselves getting ahead of time. And it's on your side. It's a little what I mean about the living longer and living more quality. Time's on our side. And we're forced to think and feel, especially today with how fast things move, that more productivity, faster pace, more information, faster pace, it's better. We're ahead of time a lot. It's the John Wooden, a great basketball coach for UCLA. Be quick, but don't be in a hurry. That was his note to his basketball players. It's like, be quick, but don't be in a hurry. You will miss things. You know, it's the Lego set, man. And you sit there and you get in a rush. You don't read the directions. You get to the end and you've got 12 pieces left, and you're like, shit, because you got in a hurry. You got ahead of time instead of just that feeling of, I've checked out what I need to do, and it's all adding up, and this thing's built right, and the foundation's right, and boom, there's the last piece. It fits. Voila. It was with time. Time's on our side. It's not an enemy. The end. Death is not the enemy. I do believe that part of, not in a rush to get there, and we want to stave it off sometimes, and that it can be a screaming fight, and partially denial can help us get there. I understand that, but still, it's on our side. It's going to happen. And since it's going to happen, and that's non-negotiable, might as well go, well, I'm not going to rush to try and make more of it than there is. I want to try and spend the time I got as well as I can, produce, succeed, achieve, well, whatever those things are, but also at a pace that I'm me, that I like to dance to. I like the give and the take. I like the reverb. I like the cause and effect of how things are happening at this pace. Like, start now. That doesn't mean time's on my side. Yeah, dude. Inshallah. When it happens, it'll happen. No, I'm like, wake up. The clock's ticking. It's on your side. Now just move with it. Dance with it. Put some soul with the facts.
I've realized that it's scary when you find a thing that you're going to fully commit yourself to the pursuit of, especially if it's excellence that you're going after, because there's no more room for your inadequacies to hide. There's no more ejector seat, right? I've committed to this.
Commit to at least one thing.
As hard as you can, and see what happens.
I had a rule with my clients because, you might say, well, I've gone halfway down this path and I found out it's wrong. Well, how do you distinguish that from just giving up? Well, that's a really hard question, right? It's a moral hazard because it's inappropriate to continue in a direction you now realize to be wrong, but it's also inappropriate to give up and use that rationalization as an excuse, and how do you distinguish?
Especially seeing as we're not transparent to ourselves.
Well, right, exactly. So that is genuinely a moral hazard. You can change course as long as the next thing you do is equally or more difficult, because that's a check against just giving up. So you want to discipline yourself so you can get yourself organized so that you can go in a particular direction, so that when you find the right direction, you can really go in that direction. And that does require an apprenticeship of sorts. And it might not matter in some sense exactly what the apprenticeship is, as long as it is rigorous, right? And so that's sort of a bridge between moral relativism and moral absolutism. There's lots of games you can play. It's not that obvious a priori which is the best game, so that's kind of a morally relative stance. There's multiple playable games. But then the absolute is, yeah, but you have to play one of them. You have to learn to play one of them. You have to become an expert at least one of them. And then that's not a relative proposition. And I believe that's true. That seems to me to be the case. So you want to commit to something. And then when you commit to something, you require yourself to bring all of your disparate components moving in a single direction, united in a single direction. So it's a unifying act. And then once having been unified, well, then you can bring that unity to bear on a variety of different tasks. But you have to bring it together first. So, and that makes sense developmentally. You see children start out as a disparate bundle of motivations and emotions, sort of warring with one another. And then they can integrate that into single games that they can play with themselves. And then they integrate that with games they start to play with other people. And all of that is integration. It's not subjugation, it's not repression. Not if it's a good game, it's integration. You want to get integrated because then you have all the horses that are pulling your chariot pulling in the same direction. And you're much more likely to get to where you want to go then, and also much more likely to specify a good place to go.
Do you think that there's a usefulness in having a nemesis to motivate you? I try to avoid making enemies of people or groups or ideas.
Don't make unnecessary enemies.
But there is an extra level of fire that gets lit underneath you when you're going up against someone, and I miss it sometimes. There's a price that you pay for peace.
Yeah, well, then you just have to look at yourself harder and find the nemesis, because it's there all the time, right? I mean, there's always parts of yourself that you can overcome. Now, if you need something to grapple with, and you probably do, you can find that. You just look inside, you'll find something to grapple with. You know, inadequacy, weakness, susceptibility to temptation, narcissism, pride, envy, revenge, resentment, frustration, lack of faith, all of that'll keep you occupied if you really grapple with it. And yeah, I mean, that's an ancient theological question. You know, what's up with the devil? Why does the possibility of evil exist? Why is there an eternal adversary? Why would God construct a reality where an adversary exists? And maybe it's because all things considered, a world with an adversary is a better world, just like a garden with a snake in it is a better garden. These things aren't easy to understand. No snake, no necessity to contend with snakes. So why be awake at all? No adversary, no challenge. Why be challenged? Because maybe you're better for the challenge. And maybe that's the challenge, to see if you can be better for the challenge.
But that should be internal.
Well, fundamentally, if it isn't, you'll find it externally, because you'll demonize someone to turn them into Satan so that you can find an adversary. And then that's very unfortunate for you and for them.
That's the problem.
It's just not as big a battle. It's like you battle with someone external who's malevolent, let's say, or you think they are, and usually you've got that mostly wrong, but not always. But if the battle is inside, which is where it's supposed to be, most fundamentally, then it's the ultimate. It is the ultimate challenge.
And that's the infinite game. The external one is
battle between good and evil on a playing field of chaos and order. It's the eternal game.